Young people are expected fully to be some of the ones who are going to be making the decisions when they get to the ballot, to make sure that they make the right decisions, because ultimately they're impacted. We meet a young man here on the south of Johannesburg by the name of Lenkosi Khumalo. Let's go and have a chat with him and find out what his take is. Is he going to be voting or not? Take us through some of those experiences that you face, as well as challenges that you face on campus as a young person.
One of the problems is that the government doesn't have a policy to regulate how universities charge students. If you look at VET 7 years ago, tuition used to be around 25,000, 28, but within a space of 7 years, currently my degree is 69,000. And you find that accommodation is 78. I mean, the cheapest accommodation, that is South Point, that is also exploiting many students and a lot of our parents, is 34. And so now what happens is you might even get a bursary, but the bursary would not be able to settle accommodation and your tuition at the same time. So as a result, you are left with a lot of debt. My mother is crippled. She was hit by a stroke in 2006. She's not working, she's dependent on government. So you ask yourself, where are they getting these dates? I have a huge debt, because currently I couldn't even get into an accommodation to stay because my degree requires me to be close to campus. So as a result, you find yourself sleeping in libraries, and the problem is that you know that back at home they're suffering. You can't pressurize them too much because you know that your parents are already doing enough to make sure that probably you get money to travel back into Joburg and money to maybe eat and have basic needs.
What do you think, Cebo, needs to really happen?
Solutions are there, but the problem is lack of political will. And what causes that, it's like I said, it's the old people. Yes, they were young at some point and they had a purpose. Probably we can say they achieved their purpose, but at this current moment, the only reason why they're in politics is to feed their families, to feed their kids. Probably their kids are in China, they're not affected by what is happening at home. But the truth is that most of the old people that are in parliament, they need to take retirement. They have reached ceiling, they're useless because they no longer have a purpose. They no longer serve the interest of the country.
Tell us which side your vote is going to be swaying.
My vote is my secret.
Your vote is your secret. And on that note, we want to say hello, Dumelang Sambonani, South Africa. Welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
I'm your host, Umkolisi Wagomasango. Sizagene from our headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Now, with the upcoming elections that are going to be happening in May, where Jackie will focus on young people, and we ask the critical question: are the election manifestos really have all the interests of the youth at heart?
Well, that's a very important question because, you know, your political manifesto will obviously be a publication that is issued by a political party, and obviously to represent some of the policies that the political party will obviously represent should they be governed or at least run the country. Now, we know that the DA, the EFF, as well as the NC have released their manifestos, and we know as well that the elections will be coming up in May.
Well, Jackie, that are expected to be making some of the decisions when they go vote in May. Of course, we took the opportunity to go and speak to them just to find out on the streets. Have a look at this.
Sanibonani babukele emakhaya igama lami nguMphoma Donsela intatheleni yasestradweni namhlanje sila ku-expression sifuna ukuzwa izimvo zabantu abasha ukuthi njengoba sibheke kuma elections alonyaka engabe bona babona kanjani ba ready na ukuyovota.
Mostly ama elections about abantu aba 18 years upwards, but thina abana 16 ama teenagers angicabanga ukuthi so vote.
Ama manifesto ama political parties asekhulumile, ingabe wena ubona ukuthi akhuluma nawe ngqo njengomuntu omusha?
Yo haya ngibona okay ngizothi bakhuluma nathi abakhulumi ngathi like nje I confused lento so ayihlangani
akunama library akunama park inji ba prek so angicabanga nokuthi ukuvota.
And most of it izinto ezenzakalayo makumele kuzovota uzobona ngama trucker bakudluza itrata ngathi bazofaka iskontiri every time mele bayenze kanjalo ukuthi okay fine siyazi mazenza njalo mele sivote.
Ithembiso abazishoyo bazifeze ngiyacela because noma ungabheka ama RDP awaqedwanga yini sifelani thina abantu abasha
mase kuye ngathi kuyavota bayenza ngathi bayayakha mase kuqediwe bayayeka kuloku kunjalo wena sokumele uzilungisele ngama-teenager yikho most of the time ama-teenager amaningi abapreki ama-drugs ama-addicts abanye abasana nendondo zokuhlala kwamele ukuthi benze boma-library yabo lana kunjani ukuthi at least masibuye esikolweni ngiyazi ukuthi hayi angiyi ukuyobhema angiyi ebafaneni ngizoziyele library ngifunde mafuna sivote sivote masingavota sivote malokhu basenzela basimoshela ikontiri izindlela zethu
ukuvota nje akusenani sokuwukuthi nje siyayenza badla imali for mahala angiyiboni into abayenzayo like
sishoda ngekolo la sishoda ngekolo abantwana abaningi bahleli abafundi abathola ibhekisi ikolo njengathi nje ikolo zigcwele
ID uyakhona ukuyithola na 16 what's the use ukuthi ube ne-ID mara ungakhona ukuvota Mwaye kwamele ube na 18 ukhona ukuregister for ukuvota. That's not fair.
Sengimdala manje ngina 16 mara I am old enough ukuthi ngiyazi ukuthi ngifunani life yami.
A lot of skepticism and cynicism from young people in terms of political parties being able to meet some of their mandates. But to help me unpack this issue and take it a little bit further, I'm joined in studio by Luyolo Mpiti, who is the DA youth leader. And I'm also joined by Ndumiso Mokako, who is an ANC youth leader. And of course, we did invite the EFF, but I think they're running a little bit late and they might be joining Umxolisi on a social media corner. And as you know, I never do this by myself. And like I said, Umxolisi will be manning our social media corner and bringing some of your insights and perspectives on this also important conversation that we're having in studio. Gentlemen, welcome to Expressions.
Thank you for having us.
We heard there, young people, hey, there's a lot of skepticism and cynicism. But I think, Ndumisa, let me start with you. I mean, it was interesting. One of the young people said, aye, man, the ANC is full of old people. And I think that the sentiment is that they don't feel that their voices are necessarily being represented. Now, why should young people vote for a political party that does not represent young people in its highest and most important decision-making structures?
Thank you very much, Jackie, for hosting the ANC Youth League exactly 63 days before overwhelming victory of the ANC on the 8th of May.
Very confident?
The question, extremely confident, of course, as I've been affirmed by Ipsos and other credible research institutes. But nevertheless, the question you are raising is a very important question of saying how do we, as the African National Congress Youth League and young people in general, make sure that we increase the number of young people in decision-making bodies. I think it is also, firstly, before I respond to the question, you must note that it is not only in the ANC or in Parliament where there's a problem of old people. The reality of the matter is that if you go to churches, majority of leaders are old people. If you go to corporate South Africa, majority of leaders are old white men. So as part of trying to introduce a new generation of leaders in the leadership structures of the ANC and is in Parliament, the ANC has made it a point that 20% of the parliamentarians we are going to send in Parliament to the 6th Parliament of South Africa must be young people. And beyond that, we have said to the ANC, 20% is just a mere minimum, both in the National Assembly and other legislatures. This quarter, just by the way, the Youth League demands that it be 40%. Okay, we are saying that we ought to have institutions that reflect the demographics of the country, and the country is a young country. Okay. So the issue of having young people in structures can no longer be negotiable.
So which is fine, Dumisa, but the ANC has been in power for a while, and you know, a lot of young people do feel like this is rhetoric. This is the same things that they've been hearing, you know, election after election. And I think I'm going to bring Uluyolo to come into this conversation. I mean, we know that issues such as free education is important to young people. Unemployment is a critical issue to young people, but we also know that crime and violence, especially now, they seems to be, it seems to have heightened. It's trending. I mean, we know like Mampinji and Babes Wedumo were trending. So we know this is an issue that affects young people, and we want to find out, for young people who are watching the show right now, what is the DA doing to address this? How is your manifesto speaking to some of these issues that are facing young people?
Definitely. I think the diagnosis of South Africa right now is not good. I think it's quite hard to be a young person right now in 2019. I fail to understand why Undumiso is confident when you have an economy that is growing at 0.7% in this country, where you have 9.7 million people without jobs, where you have young people who continue to suffer on a day-to-day basis, looking for jobs, not having access to jobs. So we do have a fundamental problem, and we need to be honest as young people to say that, in fact, if young people are unable to be empowered in this country, then of course there is no future in this country. What is the DA planning to do? Now, the DA is quite focused to understand that we cannot speak about unemployment without speaking about the economy. The economy is central to what we can do to young people. So what we are saying as the DA is we have the National Civilian Service, which is a program that we want to implement should we come into government after the 8th of May. And this program is quite simple. It's a one-year program that gives young people an opportunity to receive skills, to equip themselves, to become more employable, and be able to find jobs in this economy. We understand that EPWP has completely failed young people because government has failed to understand how it monitors and evaluates its successes. So you can have, for example, a project that employs 500 people for five months. But what happens after that 5 months? What happens to those young people? So we need to stop monitoring outputs, and we need to start looking at the impact and the outcomes. Because if we want to create jobs, they must be sustainable. Young people must be able to come into these projects and these programs and be able to find jobs thereafter.
Well, I mean, it's really up to you to decide. I mean, do you feel that there is a distinction between the ANC and the DA? And I know, you're wondering, what is happening to the EFF? Is Expressions excluding them in this conversation? No, and we're definitely saying definitely not. They're going to be part of this conversation. They're going to be joining Kolisi on the flip side of this. You're definitely watching Expressions, South Africa's biggest current affairs show. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Remember, we all interactive on your various social media pages. We're also live streaming this conversation on YouTube. Please do check out all our handles on your screen. We'll be putting them up a bit later. This is Expressions, your hashtag #1 youth current affairs show. I'm Kanjik Sihlo. We're still talking about the upcoming elections here in South Africa, and we're asking Phela Bantabasha Utingabe, are all the manifestos that have been put forward before you really making sense, and are they really speaking to your heart? South Africa. Joining me now is, of course, Anelile Qebikeko, did I say it right? As well as Peter Kietsi from the EFF. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you on the show. Peter, let's speak about your manifesto as the EFF, and let's speak about what is it that you bring onto the table that is new, that is fresh for Bantabasha of the country?
Well, I think what is important is the fact that young people haven't been participating in the electoral process, and that should signal something to you in terms of what is it that have been making young people to run and not participate in the elections. And once you answer that question, you are then able to respond to the needs and the demands of young people. Look, the EFF stipulates it very well in terms of the job opportunities that are going to be created by EFF government. We're saying each and every department, whether it's a mining department, education department, whatever government institution it is, they must have a clause where each and every intake of new opportunities of jobs, at least 40%, let it be young people. Every time when employment is created, at least 40% of that portion, let it be young people. Something that we haven't seen, whether in the private sector or in the government institution. And we're saying the EFF should do that, and it is in fact going to do that according to the manifesto. And we must appreciate the fact that this is not just the EFF manifesto. It is a manifesto that comes from a thorough consultation with our people. These are the demands and the needs that people have raised in all the processes that we have ran as an organization on the ground, speaking to the real issues that our people continue to
Anelile, I need to bring you in onto this. Now, you say that, young people are just no longer like sheep. They don't just follow. Balandeli, there needs to be a reason why they're voting for certain people. Why do you think Abantabasha are now becoming, savvy when it comes to making the decisions as to who to vote for?
Well, firstly, it's because there's alternative ways, right? The youth, and I'm like youth endala, but the youth, have found different ways of getting attention, right? There's a lot of alternative ways, and they're basically just saying voting is not the way, right? That democracy is not going to give us any results. South Africa has got a lack of trust for the government, and because of that, they feel like if we vote, nothing's going to change anyway. We've seen in the clips today. And especially since some of the issues that are directly impacting us as youth are mentioned in manifestos, but they're not the key driving messages, right? Unemployment is very important, but so is gender-based violence, so is queer rights and things like that. And these are the conversations that youth are really, really passionate about and would get them to actually leave their homes and go. And
of course, making another important point of discussion there about armed violence in the country. This is at a time where, Peter, where we have Utoriso, you know, being killed. And this is at a time we have musicians like Babes Wotumo as well, you know, being filmed as they're being assaulted. What is your party bringing to the table? I know, Guti, you know, at some point you've adapted a hands-on approach, but what are you guys doing? What does the manifesto say when it comes to tackling crime?
I think you are raising one of the most important points here, because it gives you an impression to say, what are young people doing if they're not interested to take part in a democratic process like voting? There should be something that is preoccupying them. And what is that thing that is preoccupying these young people? We've seen how the young man Toris was murdered. The gangs are the things that are only that are currently in South Africa, you know, organizing young people instead of young people being active. Of course, one would say is because of the failures of government on how they have been promising young people and not delivering. And as a result, young people are starting to lose interest. But on the activism part of it, the EFF have committed itself. That is why we see very well, we are doing very well in the institutions of Harleni, to arm our comrades, you know, to understand what we are dealing with. It is not all about, you know, just entertainment and going out as gangs, alcohols, going out. No. It's much bigger than that.
All right. Let's just check in with what our viewers have to say there on social media. Kwanele says, actually, they do, as they always have, but the problem is the implementation. They do say all these nice things that includes promises for the youth, but none of those promises will be implemented. Ketumetse says they sometimes address the issues, but no action, and when the time comes to act, they'll definitely need creative minds. And of course, Fezega says, we love you guys, and thank you very much for that, Fezega. And remember, Lapombugele, all the views expressed in this segment are those of our viewers and in no way reflect those of Expressions and its producers. This all-important conversation continues when we return back after this.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions, and tonight we are speaking about the upcoming elections that are going to be taking place in South Africa. And the poll question that we're asking you tonight is, do political parties' election manifesto have the interest of the youth in South Africa? And of course, I am with all three of political parties in, at least that represent young people and generally the people in South Africa here on my table. And guys, we have to wrap it up. I think there are lots of comments that have come across from Kolisi and some of the social media comments. But I think, Peter, let me start with you. I mean, should you be given the opportunity to be voted in power, what would you do differently?
Look, I think education should be prioritized extremely, which is why we called and we are still calling for free education. Because once you are not educating your people, your economy and ultimately the country won't be sustainable, and the economic freedom we talk about. So once you skill your people, you are going to be in a position where even the textile industry is completely owned by the state. That's what we're saying, where all uniforms of whatever police, nurses, soldiers are designed in South Africa to create jobs for young people in particular, right? You go to high schools, we still have young people who continue to buy their uniforms from your PEPs, your Ackermans, while their own people has that capacity, and government can invest through TVET
so colleges. For you, it's really about empowering young people. And I think, Leola, let me find out from you, why should young people vote for the DA?
I think the first thing that we want to say is that the DA sees young people, it hears young people matter. Now, we have a plan to grow the economy by 3% in our second year of governance. The plan is to have key interventions in manufacturing, agriculture, mining, because those are the industries that are currently declining. We have a plan to say we want opportunity centers to continue to be a nationwide initiative, as we've seen in the city of Johannesburg, where young people are able to go to these opportunity centers and skill themselves. Not only skill themselves, but find sustainability in terms of being employable. Okay. So our plan is simple. We say to young people, please know that the DA does see you. We see those young people in Eastern Cape, Estegspet, Eslalini. We are talking to them, and those are the people that we are saying, we want to empower you so that you can find a job in this country.
And Dumiso, we know 25 years in power. Why should young people trust you with the next 25 years?
Young people must trust the African National Congress, because the ANC is going to make sure that it creates jobs in South Africa, and most importantly, remove barriers for young people to find work, which is mostly experience as a requirement. And secondly, we are going to make sure that we reduce the cost of finding work by digitalizing the Z83, which we've already started doing exactly. And secondly, reduce the cost of data, because data is a serious enabler in this 21st century. And without access to data, there are many things which young people cannot do. And lastly, let me just say, the ANC does not only speak about gender-based violence. The ANC actively campaigns against gender-based violence.
So you are definitely doing something. So unfortunately, I am going to cut you here. But I think what's really important for young people is for them to go out and figure out what the manifesto is saying. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you, but I think it's very important for young people to take initiative and find out for themselves what these political parties are saying in their manifestos, right?
Indeed. This is the first of several installments as we build up to the elections that we're going to be bringing for you, so you're able to make an informed decision when you head to the polls. Now, I'm a poll results to Pumila this evening. About 60% of you said yes, and about 40% of you said no. Now, just going to please play us out. Do have a great evening going forward in Salega.